And to be honest, Atlanta is really cool. Like I like it. I like the vibe. I like the so much to do. Honestly, when people comparing it, being that I've been in Houston almost 2 years now, it's crazy. Atlanta and Houston are cousins. Okay,
Mm,
they're cousins. They're not twins. They're not sisters. They're cousins, and I'm going to go into detail. So I came back yesterday. This is my fourth time in Atlanta or fifth time. I can't recall. So of course I don't live there. Nana doesn't live there. But like you mentioned, we go there enough times. It's not like it's somewhere I've been to once. ATL stand up is in the building. Anyone in Atlanta, put ATL in the chat. ATL stand up, represent your city. I've been to Atlanta enough times. I've been to stuff where I feel like I can give a decent, opinion. Talk about it to an extent. So first, we have to always start with the statistics. So it shocked me too. I personally thought Atlanta was much bigger, but
no.
Houston, population wise, is like 6 times Atlanta. So
You thought
Houston,
Atlanta was bigger than Houston? Or
no,
you just
but I thought it was bigger than what it is.
got it, got
So
it.
Houston is the fourth largest city in America. Like we always mention, is preceded by number one New York, number two LA, and number three Chicago. All right. So Houston has 2.2 million people as of 2023, and the area is 640 square miles. All right. Atlanta is number 39 in most populated cities in America. Okay. With a population of 490,000. So, like, let's say 500,000. Houston is 2.2. So, Houston is more than 4 times the population of Atlanta, which surprised me because I know, of course, Houston was bigger, but I didn't know it was that much bigger.
But I
And
see here that Atlanta seems like it's more densely populated than Houston.
look. And then Atlanta has 135 square miles. So, Houston is like over 4 times the size, almost 5 times the actual size of Atlanta as well. So the population makes sense, right? It's basically equal. If you're doing it based on the ratio, it's very proportional. Just that Houston is just bigger. So you mentioned density. The density, I don't know. They're doing this by square miles. I don't know how they calculate this density, but yeah. So Atlanta is smaller, has a smaller population. When you do the math, it's basically the ratio wise, it ends up being very similar. Okay, so I'll start off, I guess, by talking about the similarities between Atlanta and Houston, right? So, Houston, like I said, there's cousins, right? I think one of the similarities between them, I would say, is the nightlife. Like,
Hmm.
I feel as if when you think about major cities in America, I'm embarrassed. I haven't been to Miami. Please, please, no one, don't. I've never been. I know.
Doing
I'm embarrassed, but when you think of like major cities in terms of nightlife, and especially when it pertains to Black people and also like the African scene, I feel like Atlanta and Houston, like no one's sitting with them. Like they're top two.
diversity in general, diversity.
Yeah, diversity in general, like just especially for Black people in general. Talk about the nightlife partying, the amount of the way people go in at the club, spending. I don't know if y'all saw that Instagram thing. I saw it too late. Nana didn't. Nana should have told me check Insta. I was off Instagram over the weekend because I'm like, I just want to focus on what I traveled for. But this girl has showed that she was in the Red Room, a club in Atlanta, and she asked the guy to send her 5K. He sent it to her. I was like, damn, I was at the wrong club on Saturday. So just thinking about nightlife, like when I go to Atlanta, I see that similarity in terms of like if you go all Buford Highway, they have it's just strips of clubs, like which like
And
in a
it's
lot
that
of,
same weird setup that y'all have in
and
Houston.
we mentioned number
Like
two.
the
That's the thing we
strip,
mentioned. Everything is in strips. What's the term? Is it
strip malls.
strip malls? Literally, that's Atlanta is the same. It's so weird how you go to a club and it's like in a strip mall, Popeyes is here, this little store is here, the laundromat is right next. Like it's not separate. So everything is like connected. That's exactly how Atlanta is. Houston is just like that. Just like that. The clubs are in strip malls, things are in strip malls. It's the same setup. Okay. Another thing I also find similar is that a lot of people claim Houston, claim Atlanta, but they don't necessarily live in it. So it's like the same kind of concept, right? Like Atlanta is like the major city, Houston's a major city, but a lot of people live in the suburbs. So, if you have Atlanta, but people can live like in Duluth or Marietta, excuse me, or what are some other popular ones? Petra, help me. There's other popular suburbs.
It's so far, and ooh, the way you gotta drive. Same thing. A lot of I feel like Atlanta's similar to Houston. A lot of driving. You got
Yes, listen.
a lot of
So,
driving.
same way with Houston. A lot of people will say they live in Houston, of course, because if you tell someone who's not from Texas you live in Cypress, they're not gonna know what that is. You tell them you live in Missouri City, they don't know what that is. Spring, Humble, they don't know what that is. So a lot of people a lot of people, they go through both. Like they claim the city, but they actually live in the suburbs. And I understand why, because it's set up and it's just easy to say I'm from Atlanta, I'm from Houston. Another similarity I noticed is what would I say? Food. I think they both are known for having like for the most part good food. Like we went to where like the waits were crazy. We ended up going to Toast Lennox. The brunch is really good. They have that same like brunch culture, food culture, reservations. Everyone's always outside. Everyone's always doing something. Everyone's always eating. Blah blah blah. So I think that's also very similar between the two cities. What else would I say? Some similarities.
They're both warm.
Yeah, it was nice this weekend. Yes, compare. I think, of course, Houston's a little warmer, but Atlanta still has pretty good weather. Yeah, it was still like 70s high, like 72 over the weekend, which is pretty high, compared to other places right
Good
now.
food for the foodies. Good
I
food.
said food. I said the food. They're big on food, big on brunching. A lot of restaurants, a lot of places to eat. And overall, Atlanta probably more so because, of course, it has a larger Black population, but they really cater to Black people, which is a big thing. Like we mentioned, a lot of major cities do not do. That's just the reality. Like only few cities can really brag and say, you can go to somewhere that is nice and it looks good and everyone there is Black. Like it's not like
DC,
yeah,
Atlanta.
DC is known as Chocolate City back in the day. Yeah, so only a few cities in America that can brag of that. And Atlanta and Houston definitely are two of them. I mentioned that they're cousins, okay? They mentioned that they are cousins. So we have to say there's some differences, okay? I don't want to be biased, so I'm gonna speak to say what I gotta say, and of course try and stay a little politically correct. Okay, Petra's name in the suburbs: McDonough, Durham, Smyrna. Oh yeah, Smyrna. Yeah. So yeah, same concept. What I would say the difference is that Atlanta, I don't know how do I say it. Atlanta is like, I don't know, like there's a vibe there every time I go there that's very different than it's very different
A
than
good vibe or a bad vibe?
kind of both. Okay, let's be real. Let's talk about elephant in the room. A lot of women will make videos about Atlanta. People always comment, "Oh, if you're a single woman, don't go to Atlanta." And like Atlanta is pretty, LGBT friendly, LGBTQIA. It's pretty friendly. Like it really like caters to like that type of crowd. So I understand why people say that, especially as women, because to me, that I won't even lie. We're gonna have an honest conversation. One of the big things I noticed in Atlanta is just the men. And it's not necessarily about sexuality. You won't even get that deep because end of the day, you don't really know someone's sexuality unless they tell you. But I just feel as if the men give off a very feminine vibe
Hmm.
overall. Like I'm telling you, my cousin was going, we came and I was explaining to her. So we was in Phipps Plaza, y'all. I went to House of CB. I was about to get in trouble. House, okay, for example, there's
Tiny.
certain things that Atlanta has that nowhere else, like place, like right now, there's only a House of CB in Atlanta and Melrose, California. So
Wow.
of course, no matter what people will say, Atlanta still has like that, like
It's on another, like a luxury level.
yeah, like there's certain things that they're gonna just put in Atlanta because of the art audience. People are doing well. People, like it just still has that vibe. So we were going out and I was trying to explain to her.
Atlanta's faster than Houston. That's a fact. It's a faster city.
Yes,
I think
okay,
so.
I can see that. So
Yeah.
when I'm talking about the men being a bit feminine, is like you'll see guys who look very like they don't. People have this idea of like feminine when you mean like someone is like no. Like you'll see guys who are just look very just regular, and then when you start talking to them, you get like this vibe from them. I don't know how to explain it. So I can understand why people would say like dating is more difficult there because it's
I've,
just it's
I've never experienced that at
no,
all.
I was okay. Okay, example. I was I went to Lennox Mall 3 times in 24 hours, y'all. This is let me give you examples, differences. The Lennox Mall, I hear so much about it. Also hear they be having like shootouts and stuff in there. I hear so much about Lennox. I walked through that whole mall. I was like, this is it. Like for y'all that are in Houston, and start going through the comments, Galleria Mall to me, like shits on Lennox. Like it's not. It was very like to me. It was very basic. Like they had
Atlanta's where they have like shootings and stuff.
yeah, but it's like supposed to be like a high brows and Buckhead. Supposed to be like they're like nice, like big mall. You had a few stores like I noticed had Audemars. I've never seen that store like in real life. Like yeah, but it wasn't like the Galleria Mall is way better to me. For example, like that at Galleria Mall is way better than that to me. But Phipps Plaza was nice as well. So what I'm talking about, one of the differences I mentioned that about I can see where the stereotypes for the dating come out. I definitely can see him. Another difference I feel like I would notice is that oh thanks Belnor. Make sure you like the video. Everyone like this video because I'm about to get into it. Another difference I notice is that Atlanta to me is a bit ratchet. Like it's a bit more ratchet. Like despite I'm not saying that trust me, there's spots in Houston that can get real ratchet. I'm not saying that Houston is perfect. I'm not saying that is so great everywhere. Ratchet is everywhere. It is what it is. It's not necessarily a bad thing, right? But I feel as if and from what I've seen, the times I've gone, in terms of like they have a lot of nice black establishments. They cater to like a nice crowd. They have a nice, professional young crowd. I still feel like overall, Houston gives me a classier vibe. And
Interesting.
even I told you I had met a esthetician over the summer when I had went out by myself to like new spot and like I was with like a bunch of other people, and she said she lived in Atlanta for 8 years and she just moved this year. And the main reason she moved is that one of the main reasons she moved is Atlanta was getting a little too ratchet for her, and hands down, Houston is classier. She said out her own mouth, this is someone that lived in Atlanta for 8 years, and she was like, Atlanta's a bit ratchet. Like she feel like Houston gives like a better, like a more upscale vibe, and I personally agree. I personally agree as someone who has gone out in both. And of course I live in Houston. I'm a little biased. I'm not going to sit here and act like there's no bias involved, but I personally feel like Houston gives a bit more of a upscale vibe. That's my personal opinion. Okay. So make sure you're liking this video. I'm going to keep going through some of the
People said 100% accurate about the non-masculine men in Atlanta.
It's legit. Like you will see, it's not even about people think masculine is about having muscles and being no. Like it's deeper than that. Like they just have a very feminine vibe to them. Even the ones who are 6'6" and built and walking around, they're very feminine.
Ms. Mermaid said, "LO, I knew that's where you were going. That's called trade. I've never heard of the term trade." World said, "I don't like Atlanta. It's ugly." Sultan's Culture said, "Hola, hey." This Mermaid said, "Maybe it skews younger because it's so accessible. I feel like you can move to Atlanta with next to nothing, and people do." So like it's kind of like I think that's a good segue to say. I feel like Atlanta is a place with a very entrepreneurial spirit. A lot of people who want to. Houston is very business savvy
as well. But Atlanta, of course, is more Black business focused, right? Mm-hmm. So you see a lot of Black people able to really do well business wise. A lot of famous Black people live in Atlanta, you know what I mean? Compared to in Houston, Drake is coming, 50 Cent is here. Some people come and go, but you can't compare it to Atlanta. Like Atlanta it's like the Black Hollywood, you know what I mean? Like even I was watching Tyler Perry today on The View. Mm-hmm. He was talking about, he opened up like the first, like his studio was there. Like there's just certain things that Atlanta can brag on that no other city, state they can't brag on it. Like Atlanta definitely, it's different. Oh, where are you right now? So
I think Sultan Culture is in Charlotte with me. If I'm
I think it depends in terms of what I think it is still slightly because remember Texas doesn't pay state taxes. And even the sales tax in Atlanta is 8.9%. It's basically 9%. I feel like that's pretty high. I don't know. Let me check what Houston's is. I think it's no, I don't think it's up to 8%. I think Houston's still a bit more affordable.
I have Houston as being, what is the cost of living in Atlanta versus Houston? The cost of living in Houston, Texas is 8.8% lower than in Atlanta, Georgia. You'd have to earn a salary of $54,700 to maintain your current standards of living. Employers in Houston, Texas typically pay 3.6% more than employers in Atlanta, Georgia. And this is from salary.com.
Yeah, I think Houston's a bit more. Let's go through some of the comments. So I mentioned the differences in terms of the men. I think it being a tad bit more ratchet, and also this is a big difference I noticed is that I know I've spoken on this channel about Houston being diverse, but it not being as much mixins that I was expect. But I feel like Atlanta is definitely like worse. Like I feel like people
Really?
forget like Atlanta has white people. Like you'll drive through areas, you'll see them. Like even there's a clear difference between going to Lenox Mall and Phipps Plaza. I told my cousin Phipps Plaza is where the white people go. They're scared of Lenox. They're like literally not even. They're like across the street. Like just walking through, the demographic was so different. Like walking through Phipps Plaza, I barely saw black people. Versus Lenox was like everyone was black. You know
Mm.
what I mean? And they're like literally right next door. So that alone, that shows you like that segregation. You know what I mean? Like I feel like people forget Atlanta still has white people. Like if you we were driving through Buckhead Village, a bunch of white people there parked in there.
Buckhead is, I see a lot of white people.
But I'm saying in terms of it, I don't know. For Atlanta, I'm like I said, I don't live here. I don't want to misquote. A lot of black people also live in Buckhead. So
Mhm.
it's not like you may see a lot of black people like in the malls and stuff, but they also do live there. But there's certain parts within Buckhead that are still very white. That like there's that like people others are not really penetrating into. So that's another thing I noticed. Even just going out, just like Atlanta is very like
My Atlanta people, let me know in the comment section.
it's
Would you
not.
agree when you go out? Do people mix? Because I know I can't. I could say in Charlotte, people definitely mix. Okay, even though there's a lot of black-owned establishments, I could say there's a lot of places that people like with the rooftops uptown. I would say people definitely mix, but it's common to see people stay with their own as well. It's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like a lot of people tend to stay with their demographic, when it comes to social, like where they go out, where they frequent, type of music they listen to. But I wouldn't, for you to think that they don't mix at all, I think that's a
I would
bit.
say they don't mix at all, but I'm saying for where the places that I went to Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday going out, just like it's all black. Like I didn't see white people there. And I didn't sit there and just go to only black spots per se. Like what I'm saying is like even a Friday we had an event. Of course, it was like I mean it was a black event, so the people at the event are going to be black. So maybe that's not a fair assessment.
Mhm.
But even just walking around, like I don't know, like I just feel as if it doesn't give me that like kumbaya vibe.
You feel like it's
Like, you
segregated.
forget you remember, oh, I'm in Georgia.
Isaiah said Buckhead is almost 80% white. Miss Mermaid, now you definitely see white people slash others. Haven said, I was finally able to visit Houston this past weekend. Woo chow. How was it? Mr. E, a lot of scammers in Atlanta. Miss Mermaid said, there are concentrated areas of blackness, but living there, you definitely see everyone on the regular. That's good. That's nice. Yeah, people are scammy in Atlanta. Song culture, so perhaps I don't mix. LOL.
Haven, how was your experience in Houston? But I'm just rounded up. Yeah, I'm just rounded up because my one friend also lived there and she lived in Buckhead. And she was like saying like, oh, if she had all the money in the world, she would stay like in the nice part of Buckhead. So I know that Buckhead is majority white. Like I'm aware of that. But what I'm saying is that like if you just went to Lenox Mall, you wouldn't think that. Is a point I'm making. Like legit, like
Is
it
Lennox
was.
small in Buckhead though?
Yes, it wasn't 80% white in Lenox Mall. It wasn't even 40% white. It wasn't even 25% white. Like you wouldn't think that if you were just someone walking through and you just go to the mall, you would think like, oh, I'm in a black neighborhood
Hmm.
because majority of people there are black. So I feel like that's what I'm trying to hit on. Like I said, maybe they go to Phipps Plaza, they're scared, white flight. They don't want to, they get scared or whatever. But Atlanta is cool. I like what I could say is that, location wise, it's not too far from Houston, really not even a 2 hour plane ride. I feel like it's like closer to the Northeast, so it's not too far from New York, it's not too far from like other places within, America. They have the biggest, y'all know Atlanta Hartsfield is the busiest airport in the world. I mentioned that in one video about why one of the videos why everyone is moving to Houston. Atlanta airport is the busiest airport in the world. That's crazy. Like
Wow.
oh,
In the world, not even in America.
America in the world. So the
Wow.
airport, they get a lot of traffic. A lot of people move through. A lot of flights come in here. I like Delta. They have a lot of good flights. So I feel like Atlanta is a cool place. But to me, I will always look at Atlanta as somewhere to visit. I
Hmm.
don't look at Atlanta as somewhere to live.
I feel
Like
like that too. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't look at Atlanta like, oh, I'm about to go live. Like I don't. Maybe if I was even maybe a little bit younger, I could see like younger people. I know people that have went to Atlanta first and now they're in Dallas. Now they're in Houston. Like I could see it being like that first step.
So it's kind of, are you saying it's like Charlotte? How you say you feel like Charlotte?
Kinda, yeah. Like I could see it being like that first step before you like make the decision to go somewhere else. But and I also mentioned age because when I think about lifestyle, like things to do, like I don't know. I feel like age is definitely a big factor because you get tired of certain things, right? I mean, as you get older, as you get more mature. Not to say that Atlanta doesn't have stuff to do besides the club, because I would be remiss. Like, come on now, they definitely do. They have a freaking studio. They have a lot of things to do. But I just feel as if I could see why maybe younger people would be more drawn to it at a certain point in their life. Like, just have fun, you know. Also, too, they have HBCUs, you know, there. Like, that's a big thing, you know. So, for a lot of people coming in there in for school, you know, that brings a whole other crowd, another environment that also makes it, like, you know, fun that you have that experience. So, Atlanta's cool. Like it's a cool place for sure. But I definitely, like I said, Atlanta and Houston are cousins. They're not sisters. They're definitely not twins. But I could definitely see why, you know, people would want to live there. But like I said, especially for women, I also understand like why there's that narrative about, oh, Atlanta, be careful. You know what I mean? Like, be careful. You know, people bring up these crazy statistics. There's 10 women for one man. There's 15 women for one man. You know, they love bringing these. They love bringing these extreme statistics that are not verified, because we even confirmed it was like 1.2 to 1 man. Like one of the last vibes.
Fear mongering.
Yeah, that's fear mongering. So I don't know. But yeah, Atlanta's cool.
This mermaid said, "Oh wow, most Nigerians love Atlanta, Houston, and Maryland for sure. Those are the three: Atlanta, Houston, DMV for sure." Works World said most people live on outskirts of Atlanta, like Marietta. Petra says Smyrna. Another one is McDonough. Another one is Haram. I hope I'm saying that right. And then, yeah, okay.
Both of those.
We went through all of that. Atlanta is all smoke and mirrors. They also forget it's in Georgia. It's not a state. Same thing with Houston. I'm Team Houston. I don't see my husband being down there in Atlanta, I guess.
Oh, Belnor, how was Afrotech? You know, I'm so tight. I missed it. You got to tell us how Afrotech was.
Oh yeah. And then Mia, hey Mia, oh your picture's cute. I heard Houston dating scene is a slight better than Atlanta.
I believe it.
The diversity and culture is primarily why I'm interested in being in Houston. I need to be around beautiful, thriving Black people. But wouldn't you still get that in Atlanta? That's what I'm curious, Bill Nord. If you're saying
no, you're in Boston now, right? Where you're in Boston? Remind us where you are right now.
Maybe it skews younger. Yeah, we already read this one. Little Ernest said Atlanta is mainly an entertainment capital in the South. I think that definitely makes a lot of sense. Haven, you have to let us know about Houston this past weekend. How long were you there? Do you feel like you had enough time? Because Houston's really big. I've been there a few times. I still feel like every time I go, there's so much I haven't done yet. Miss Murmur says scamologists for sure. They're talking about the scammers in Atlanta, but Houston. I don't know why you're coming for Atlanta as if Houston don't have the swipers. They have the.
I think Atlanta. Yeah. For a guy to send a girl, what? How much in the club? $5,000.
It's actually ridiculous.
I text my friend. We're going to the club this weekend. We're gonna see if we can get that in O2. Like no.
Yes, go to T Haven. Yes, Lenox Mall was like being in Lagos.
Yeah.
Mermaid hate that airport, to be honest. You don't like Atlanta airport? I haven't been there that often. That the lines at ATL airport are
pre-check. You don't know about that. TSA pre-check.
Flying out of Atlanta airport is affordable, yes, especially if you live in Charlotte. A lot of flights will take you like Delta, the 40-minute flight straight to Atlanta, then from Atlanta to wherever you want to go. I see more younger individuals want to move to Atlanta due to the nightlife versus older individuals. I definitely agree with this, Mia. To me, if you told me Houston or Atlanta, me personally, I'll pick Atlanta. I still think I'll pick Atlanta again. I might be biased because I've been there a little bit more. It's closer to me. It's more I personally still would pick Atlanta, but I see what y'all are talking about. I like Nashville better than Atlanta. I like Charlotte Uptown too. Never been to Houston.
It's funny you mentioned that because I met a girl that I knew it, and she's in Nashville. And they were talking about how Nashville, like they built it up, and it's just like not the same as it was before, and like everyone's moving there. And I still haven't made it to Tennessee, but interesting that you mentioned that. I did like that you could hop on a train to the airport right from Midtown. Oh, really? Nice. And ATL is gay capital. It's very friendly, you know. Salt and court, there was a lot of sprawl. Driving situation was crazy. Going out was a whole thing. Too much involved just to go out, but the sprawl just took me out. Poor city plan. I told you, Haven, our number one video, what I wish I knew before moving to Houston, I talked about how going
Extreme
out in
sport.
Houston is an extreme sport. You have to, especially talk about nightlife, anything. It's like Atlanta. I said similarity, night section culture. Even not even just necessarily for the club. You can even just want to go to a lounge. Everything reservation. You got to pay for parking. You have to do this. Every place has a day where it's hot, a time that is hot. You just can't walk into places on days and say, "Oh, I'm just going to go here on a Friday at 6." No, it may not. It may be the spot at 10 p.m. because there's other spot that's popping at 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Like going out, you have to be very strategic. I definitely understand what you're saying. Driving situation, yeah. Everywhere is far if you're not staying within like the city center area, I would say. Like, but even then, when you go out, you have to park. Everywhere wants to charge you to park in lots that they know should be free. It should be
Hey, you charging me to park in the grass?
illegal what they're doing down here. Like, I don't understand it. In Atlanta, same thing. My friend had to pay $20 to park in a lot. These lots are public lots. Why are you guys charging people? Like, they want to make everything valet, everything pay. Like, it's just because they know people are so itchy to go outside that they'll pay it. That's the problem.
They can get y'all in Charlotte. People just stay home if they start doing all of that. Miss Mermaid said, "Yes, the trade ain't part of my repertoire. You picked up immediately. Huh? I got to do more research on this trade."